And let's discuss the situation in Ukraine with Mateusz Piskorski, Director of the European Centre of Geopolitical Analysis. Mr. Mateusz Piskorski, welcome to RT. It's good to talk to you now. So it looks like Ukraine is pretty much divided country now, with the West traditionally more pro-European, more pro-European integration with the Europe, and the East historically more pro-Russian. Do you think that opposition leaders are trying to have some sort of a dialogue with the Easterners?
No, I guess that first and foremost, all the protests which we can now see in Kiev, in the central squares and streets of Kiev, are, let's say, protests which have been raised or supported by some external factors, by some external actors of the Ukrainian political scene. First and foremost, we see a huge professionalism of those who have organized the protests. Before the protests, we have heard about the activities of several embassies and NGOs financed and supported by different countries, by foreign countries. So we see that this is a kind of pressure exerted by external forces for the Ukrainian government, for the Ukrainian authorities to think once again about the choice, which geopolitical choice, which geo-economical choice would be right and better for Ukraine. Of course, as you've told, we can of course see also the protests organized by the other side, by the Ukrainian Communist Party, by some members of the Party of Regions, which are in the eastern and southern towns of Ukraine. Unfortunately, here in Europe and in the United States as well, we see only what's happening now in Kiev, but we cannot see the reaction of other part of Ukraine, of the southern and eastern part of Ukraine.
But we've seen Polish politicians were cheering protesters there. And let's now listen together with you to what was said. Just one quote.
You are part of Europe and we will support you forever.
So European politicians taking part in anti-government protests in another country, what's your take on this?
First and foremost, I don't know if those politicians from Poland had the right to speak on behalf of Poland and on behalf of the Polish authorities, because as far as I know, no one, neither the president, neither the prime minister, have entitled them to speak and voice the Polish opinion, the Polish official opinion about the events in Kiev. Second, I don't know if Mr. Protasiewicz had the right to speak on behalf of European Parliament, because as far as I know, European Parliament has also not voted for any, let's say, one-sided resolution which would be in support of excuse me, of those protesting now on the Square of Independence. So I think this is rather a kind of private or individual initiative of some of the Polish politicians. We also know that the leader of the biggest opposition party from Poland, Mr. Kaczyński, and the leader of Law and Justice Party, also visited Kiev those days. So I think they are trying to get some more political attention rather here in Poland for the Polish public opinion than to earn some points on the international arena. So I wouldn't really seriously worry about their speeches, but of course their speeches are, let's say, at least intolerable if we look at the point of view of the diplomatic relations between the two countries. If we look at it from the point of view that Mr. Protasiewicz is the deputy speaker of European Parliament, and he hasn't had the right to voice the opinion of the whole European Parliament, I guess.
Mateusz, should the opposition succeed in overthrowing the government there in Ukraine, do you think that the EU will want to associate with such a turbulent nation as Ukraine?
I guess that for the moment being any kind of association, and first and foremost signing of the deep and comprehensive free trade agreement between EU and Ukraine, would be a kind of suicide, economic suicide for the Ukrainian side first and foremost. Because if we look at the things which have happened during the last few months, I mean, during the conflict, I mean the economic conflict between Russia and Ukraine, it was a clear proof that Ukraine's economy is very closely connected to Russia. These are the ties which have remained from the Soviet times. We perfectly know that Ukraine is part of the post-Soviet economic area, which is now integrating into a Eurasian integrating bloc. So we can tell only that the European Union is not capable to compensate all the losses, economic losses, financial losses, which Ukraine and Ukrainian government, but also Ukrainian industry would encounter in case of closer cooperation with the European Union. So I guess that first and foremost, even the opposition, if it would come to power in the coming months, wouldn't be ready to sign the deep and comprehensive free trade agreement with the European Union if it would study the possible results of such an agreement, as well as of the association agreement. So I just guess that they use these rhetorics, this, let's say, so-called pro-European rhetorics for their internal causes, to cause the internal crisis and to, of course, cause early elections perhaps next year.
Mateusz Piskorski, we have to leave it there. Unfortunately, Director of the European Centre of Geopolitical Analysis, thank you very much indeed for your time.